Sam. Welcome to Brickwall Unplugged. Today I'm doing another tier list. This time I'm looking at the work of Timothee Chalamet, or Timothée Chalamet.
Honestly, it's Timothée, but I would not oblige you to say it like that. And it could be Timothy or Timmy or Doug or
It's
Alan.
Timothée.
I meant to time this with the release of Marty Supreme, and it is much, much too late for that now, but oh well, whatever. We're going to get started with Little Women. Little Women is a movie that, I almost even forget that Chalamet is in. It's a movie where he's very much overshadowed by all the women in the movie, and that's definitely not a bad thing. That is perfectly appropriate for what the movie is about. But he is good in his role. He works really well. Most of his scenes are with Saoirse Ronan, and they have really good chemistry. It's kind of like a re-team of the two of them with Greta Gerwig again from Lady Bird. And Lady Bird was kind of like a bit of a breakthrough role for Chalamet. Like, he had done plenty of stuff, obviously, before then, including Interstellar, which we're going to talk about later on. But Little Women was a good, successful re-team for them. And it's a really good movie. It deserved the Oscars buzz that it got, and maybe potentially even more. It was kind of another stepping stone for Greta Gerwig before going on to make Barbie later on. But like I said, Chalamet does get overshadowed in this one by pretty much everyone else on the cast. And that's not really anything against him. Like I said, that it just is appropriate for the movie, that his character has a little bit less going on, but his dynamic with Saoirse Ronan is interesting and engaging when he does show up. As an overall movie, it's a bit stuffier. It's not the kind of movie that I always go for, these sort of period costume dramas, but I trust Greta Gerwig enough to go there. And I like plenty of other period costume dramas like Amadeus or Barry Lyndon or whatever. It's just not a genre that always calls to me. But Little Women is really good. The characters are compelling and well-rounded. Saoirse Ronan is definitely the lead, but all of the Little Women of the title are engaging. Emma Watson isn't as engaging for me. I don't find her as good of an actor, to be honest. And her character does have a little less going on, even though her presence in the plot is central to the other characters. The more interesting ones are Saoirse Ronan and Florence Pugh and the younger one whose name I don't remember. Eliza Scanlon, that's her. Eliza Scanlon is also really good in this one. She almost steals the show from the others, oddly enough. And I've heard Greta Gerwig talk about how, along with the whole ending and getting almost a little bit meta towards the end, one of the other big changes that Greta Gerwig made is kind of making the Beth character more central to things, and kind of not making her the main character, but kind of making her storyline almost the heart of the movie, that everything else, all the other drama, kind of revolves around. That works really well. I like Eliza. Is that her name? I already forgot her name again. Yeah, Eliza Scanlon. I like Eliza Scanlon a lot. She was the little sister in Sharp Objects as well. And I look forward to seeing her in more. It's like a B or A as an overall movie. I forget where I put it on the Greta Gerwig tier list. I probably went all the way to A with that. And I do think it's an A movie. I don't think I'm going to weight the minor role for Chalamet against this. I'm just going to rank these as movies. And I think Little Women does do just enough to get an A. It's kind of like an A minus, I would say, closer to a B than an S, but I think it does do enough to get an A. It's very good. I haven't seen any other Little Women adaptations, so I don't know how much of a retread it feels like, but in isolation, not having read the source material and not seeing the other adaptations, I think it's an A for me. Next up is The French Dispatch. This is Chalamet's collaboration with Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson loves to have these big, huge casts, and he often works with the same actors repeatedly. It's been a one-off for him with Chalamet thus far. He didn't pop up again in his couple of movies after that. He isn't in Asteroid City or The Phoenician Scheme. Not every actor fits the Wes Anderson style, and I do think Chalamet kind of doesn't really fit the Wes Anderson style. I don't think he's bad in this, but his section of the movie is kind of one of the weaker elements of this collection of short stories. Essentially, it's a vignette film where it moves between different little self-contained segments. And Chalamet's sequence is, I think, the least interesting. I don't know if that's necessarily his fault, but yeah, he does kind of feel a little out of place in the Wes Anderson mold. He doesn't really nail the specific dryness and the timing of a Wes Anderson joint. But also in general, I think French Dispatch is one of the weaker Wes Anderson movies. I think it's maybe a product of it being a vignette film, but I kind of think it's the least memorable of all of Wes Anderson's movies. Next up is Interstellar. If you've seen my other tier list, then you know that I'm not a big Christopher Nolan fan. And that includes Interstellar. I think it's an okay movie. I get a lot of pushback on this, but just like The Dark Knight, I think it's like totally fine. I don't think it's anything great. I think it's totally middle of the road fine. I think it's a C tier movie. I think it has a lot of issues. I think it does do some things really well, but I think it drops the ball when it comes to all of the big emotional moments, when it comes to like where its priorities lie as a film. And I'm not even necessarily saying that those choices are bad, of course, they just don't resonate with me. Christopher Nolan's priorities as a filmmaker often don't align with my priorities as both a filmmaker and a film consumer. I think we want very different things out of the medium. That's why Christopher Nolan often just doesn't line up for me. Interstellar, it's a well-made movie. It has good parts. It's totally fine. I don't think it's a bad movie. It just doesn't do much for me. It doesn't do nearly as much for me as it does for most people. So it's a C. And next up, I think we have another C. Dune Part 1 is a C. It's kind of hard to talk about Dune 1 without talking about Dune 2 now, but it did come out first, and for a little while it was a standalone movie. And I kind of will talk about them together, but for right now I'm just rating Dune 1. Dune 1 is hard to evaluate as a movie on its own because it does feel like just part of a movie. And then obviously Dune 3 is coming very soon at the time of recording. Maybe it's out by the time you're seeing this, but at the time of recording, Dune 3 is not out yet. Dune 2, however, feels more kind of like a complete arc of a story. Like Dune 1 and 2 go together and they kind of feel like one really long movie, but obviously there's still more story to be told with Dune 3 and all the other, sidequels and prequels and all that stuff in the Dune universe. It's hard to evaluate the first Dune in isolation because it does feel incomplete, but I think it does do a really good job setting up this world, whether you're seeing like the David Lynch version or Jodorowsky's Dune or whatever, or if you have no context for it going in. I think it does a good job building the world, establishing the lore of this world and how the technology works and all that. It's a really good presentation of the world building and the technology and all that. And that holds true for Dune 2. Kind of like Interstellar, I don't get as much out of the Dune movies as a lot of people do. I would say especially the second one. I don't know if the second one is like actually any worse than the first Dune, but I think maybe it's more a case of the first Dune got some kind of benefit of the doubt that the second part would stick the landing. And then for me, the second part didn't really stick the landing. I was left so cold on a narrative and character side with Dune 2 that I feel like I want to go a little bit lower with it, actually. I'm going to leave it in C, though, because I think they're pretty comparable. And I do think there's a lot of good film craft going on. Again, like Interstellar, they're very well-made movies. They feel very much of the same ilk to me, where they're prioritizing big spectacle and like the blockbuster experience. And just my taste as a film critic is I don't really go for blockbusters. I'm not a spectacle-driven person. I don't get much out of the Dune movies. I feel like they're really lacking in the character building department. Almost especially Chalamet's character. I think Paul is not a good protagonist. Paul Atreides. Some of the side characters are a little more interesting, but I think a lot of them fall flat too. Like Zendaya, I think is pretty bad in these movies. For a while, this was like the only thing I'd seen Zendaya in, so I thought it was just a character issue. But now having seen her in the drama, I thought she was like really like actively bad in that one. So now I do think some of the blame rests on her shoulders in Dune as well. Her and Chalamet have no chemistry whatsoever, and that really drags down pretty big parts of Dune 2. Some of the side characters, like, I actually think Jason Momoa is pretty good in the first part, and I think Oscar Isaac's fine. I think Skarsgård is okay as a villain. He's been underutilized maybe, but he's a good, like, formidable physical presence at the very least. And I like the way he's presented. I think Javier Bardem is pretty good in part 2. He's probably the actor who comes out of part 2 looking the best. And Josh Brolin is fine, I think, across both of them. I hate Austin Butler, just like across the board. I had seen him in a couple things here and there before this, and I was like, oh, I don't like this guy. Dune Part 2 made me go, oh, I think I actually hate this guy and I don't want to watch anything else he's in. There's a few actors like that where they just rub me the wrong way immediately and kind of permanently. Eddie Redmayne is another one where just if he's in it, I don't want to watch it. And Dune 2, it's got these big sequences, but I didn't find any reason to care about them. Like the whole part where they're taking down the big um, spice harvester. It's like a big action sequence and it's technically like well assembled, but I don't feel much in terms of the stakes or the drama behind it. Same thing with the big dueling pit sequence. It looks nice. The choreography is kind of bland, but it's serviceable. It's fine, but I don't have any reason to care about it. Same with the big worm taming sequence, which I know is like one of the big parts of the Dune world building and the Dune like novel and everything. They even made the popcorn bucket after it. But in the context of the movie, I'm like, I don't care about this. Why would I care about this happening? It's big. It looks nice. Like the VFX work is like impeccable. I can't knock it there, but I just find myself not caring about it whatsoever. Okay, next up is Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up is a weird movie. It gets a lot of hate, and I don't think it's undeserved. I don't think it's quite as bad as its like fiercest critics. I think its social commentary, or maybe I should rather say its approach to social commentary, is very ham-fisted and very blunt. I do think that some of the actual like points it's making thematically are like fine points to make, but it does not make them well. It's a jam-packed cast. There's like so many actors in it. It's kind of crazy and also just like unnecessary. It's a case of like a director having his pick of the litter and just choosing to work with like every actor and putting them in like little roles where they don't really have anything to do, which I guess can be fun sometime for like a spot the cameo game. I think Mark Rylance is pretty good. I think Kate Blanchett is pretty good in there. I don't like Jennifer Lawrence. Actually, she's another actor who, if she's involved, I usually don't want to watch it. There are some exceptions, like I plan on seeing Die My Love soon. I do really want to watch that one, but it's kind of like in spite of her being in it. Her being in it is probably why it's taken me this long to get around to it. If I'm being honest, she just never convinces me in pretty much any role. She was okay in Winter's Bone, like at the early part of her career, and I don't think I've seen anything else with her in it where I thought she was any more than like kind of bad. And I gotta say, I don't think Chalamet is good at Don't Look Up. I think his character is written to be like kind of annoying, and he leans into that, so it's not really his fault again, but he ends up being kind of insufferable in this one. His character is just too annoying to want to spend any time with. And DiCaprio's in this, and it's probably his like least interesting role of the past decade or more, because he usually picks like really interesting characters, and this is not one. Don't Look Up is it's not a very good movie. I don't think it's awful. It's like an E and a half, halfway between E and D. I think I don't know, like in the moment watching it, it doesn't feel like actively bad, but it does feel so much longer than it is. And then I'm remembering the ending now, and the ending is like awful. It's like actually baffling that it's as bad as it is, and that they thought that ending was a good idea. I think I'm going to go down to E on this one. Next up is Lady Bird. Lady Bird I like a lot. I'm a Greta Gerwig fan. I think Chalamet is good on this. It's kind of a minor role again, but like I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Little Women, it was a little bit of a breakthrough for him. I think it was the first time where I really noticed him and was like, this guy is pretty good. He's definitely got talent and potential. The cast overall to this is really good. I love Tracy Letts as an actor and especially as a writer. He's the guy who wrote Bug and Killer Joe, those two William Friedkin movies that are really great. Those like late stage William Friedkin hidden gems. And Laurie Metcalf, also excellent as the mother. And Saoirse Ronan is really good. I used to not like Saoirse Ronan that much. Lady Bird completely changed my opinion on that. She's really great in this. And you know what? I haven't really seen her in much after this other than Little Women. Like I never got around to like Ammonite or Brooklyn or whatever. So I don't know. I got to give her more chances, I guess, because she's really good at this. Lady Bird is very funny. It's a great coming of age story. I love a good coming of age story, and Lady Bird like became like an instant classic within that little genre. I think I remember reviewing it when it came out, and I was like, yeah, this is an instant classic coming of age movie. It's great. It's another A tier. It's almost an S. I like it more than Little Women. I don't know if it quite goes all the way to S. I think it's still an A. Next up is Hot Summer Nights. This is one that was a little smaller, a bit more on the indie side. before Chalamet really got like huge. And I was really excited for it because it was a pairing of him with Micah Monroe or Micah Monroe. I still don't know how you pronounce her name, but Micah Monroe of It Follows, Longlegs, The Guest, and Watcher. Like I really like Micah Monroe. I think she's great and she chooses really good roles a lot of the time. So I thought a pairing of the two of them in like a crime comedy with maybe a little bit of a coming age kind of flair is what it seemed like from the trailer. And I think there is a little bit of that. And just like the vibe of this movie, I think is really cool. But unfortunately, it just doesn't deliver. It doesn't really pack anything all that memorable or even all that like noteworthy or worthwhile. It's just kind of like a by the numbers retread of tropes from these types of movies. These like teen summer movies mixed with like kind of low stakes crime movies. And it doesn't excel in any kind of way. It's ultimately just really bland and forgettable. It's not terrible, but I think it's a D. It just really has like nothing going for it. Okay, next up is Call Me By Your Name. Just to talk about Chalamet in particular on this one, he blew me away in this one. I did not know he was capable of a performance like this before Call Me By Your Name. This was his best work at the time. At the time, I'll let you guess momentarily which one I think outdid it. Now, I don't really want to get bogged down in the Army Hammer of it all with Call Me By Your Name, or the fact that the age difference is a little weird here. Now, I will acknowledge that like the characters are supposed to be closer in age than they look. They look like the age difference is like ridiculous and like really, really problematic. In terms of the actual character ages, the age difference is still definitely a little dicey, but it's closer than it would seem just by looking at them visually. The actual like intended ages of the characters, but even still, if that puts you off the movie, that's totally fine, I think. But at the end of the day, I think Call Me by Your Name is a really good movie. I think it does have some things that hold it back that even aren't related to the optics, even though the optics of it, like the age thing and Army Hammer in general, are definitely things that like kind of do hold it back. But I think Call Me by Your Name is really solid as a drama. The emotion that courses through this thing is palpable. Chalamet is excellent. I actually do think Armie Hammer is good in it. I really liked Armie Hammer as an actor until his whole scandal happened. I was becoming like a really big fan of the guy, like right before that scandal happened. I thought he was really good on this in like Free Fire and a couple other roles where he was like really charismatic presence. Anyway, that's off the table now. Luca Guadagnino is very hit or miss for me as a filmmaker. He also made Bones and All, which is the next one we're going to talk about. But he's very hit or miss for me as a filmmaker. I've really enjoyed some of the things he's made, and then really not enjoyed other things he's made, and then also been kind of just like in the middle on yet more movies that he's made. And then he also has movies that I just have no interest in, like Challengers. I don't have any interest in Challengers. Oh, and I want to mention Michael Stolberg. I love him as an actor in general. He's excellent at Call Me by Your Name. Really reserved, understated performance as Chalamet's dad. He has a couple like standout moments. One really big scene in particular that is just so good, and it really like ties the whole movie together in a meaningful way. It's a really good film. I don't think it goes all the way to A, but it's our first B tier. Maybe only B tier. I don't know. We'll see. Next up is Bones and All. Now this movie, it's the other Luca Guadagnino. This is another one of his movies that I don't really care for all that much. I think Luca Guadagnino's two movies that I really like are Call Me by Your Name and then his 2018 remake of Suspiria. I think is really great. I think those are his two best movies. I don't really care for Bones at All, and I didn't really care for Queer either. That one had some interesting elements going on, and the source material is always fun. William S. Burroughs is fascinating, but I didn't really like the execution of some of that movie. Bones and All, I don't hate this movie. It feels distinctly like YA, I think, even though it is like kind of a horror movie. It's like a horror romance. Like, I don't know if it's intended as YA. I don't think it is because it does get like a little more gruesome than those types of movies often do, but it just has that stink to it where things feel like a bit immature and a bit dumbed down. And there are just like aspects of the plot and even the presentation of this that just really don't work for me. There are some things that work, like the romance I don't think is terribly handled, but I don't think it's that compelling either. Mark Rylance is really interesting in this role. He's very over the top. You could argue that he's too over the top, but at least he's memorable. And his character is like very gross and uncomfortable. When he's on screen, I'm more engaged. When he's not on screen, I find myself going like, okay, I don't really care about these other two characters that much. I don't really care about their road trip or like the cannibal society in general, really. I think it's just not for me. For me, it's a D. And last up, Marty Supreme, big Oscars contender. And I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It is the only movie that's going to get an S tier today. I think Marty Supreme is excellent. I'll be doing a Safdie Brothers tier list at some point. I guess once I watch Smashing Machine, because I think that's their only thing that I haven't seen at this point. Oh, maybe Yeast too, which has Greta Gerwig in it. I guess I'll watch those two and then I'll do my Safdie Brothers tier list. Marty Supreme feels like, even though it's only one of the Safdie brothers, they still have Ronald Bronstein involved, who worked on a lot of other Safdie Bros projects. So even though it's only one of the actual brothers, it feels very much like a Safdie Bros movie, but kind of an elevated version of it. Elevated in terms of like the budget and the production design, production value, things like that. But also just it's taking kind of the formula that they're so good at already in movies like Uncut Gems and Good Time, and really like I kind of want to say perfecting it. I do think there's still room to grow even further because there kind of always is, but it feels like such an evolution of their style, both in terms of the filmmaking and their like narrative sensibilities, which I guess are really just Josh Safdie and Ronald Bronstein's narrative sensibilities. And Chalamet is fantastic in this. It is by far his best performance, I think. Call Me By Your Name was his best performance. He outdoes himself in Marty Supreme. Like aspects of the filmmaking feel this way too, but especially his performance has such like a great like new Hollywood feel to it. And if you're familiar with like my video essays and stuff on the Brickwall Pictures channel and other TLS, then you know that I have like a real soft spot for the new Hollywood era. It's my favorite like period of filmmaking. And this feels like it fits that mold. It's distinctly modern at the same time, but it feels like it fits that new Hollywood like ethos and energy in a brilliant way. I love that on a performance and filmmaking level. Chalamet's excellent in this. He deserved his Oscar nomination for it. At one point, I really thought he was going to win, and I think he kind of deserved to win. For me, it was between Chalamet and Wagner Moura for The Secret Agent, and also big snub, but I think you can make a case for Lee Byung-hun for No Other Choice. Those are my three front runners, only two of which were nominated. And I don't think it should have gone to Michael B. Jordan. I do think Michael B. Jordan is a good actor, but it's definitely a case of the award going to most acting instead of best acting. It's like, oh, he played two characters. That's twice as much acting. I mean, it must be twice as good. But really, both of those characters are a lot more simplistic and nowhere near as impressive as any of the other three I mentioned. Anyway, I don't want to just complain about Sinners too much because that's not the purpose of this. Anyway, I think Chalamet, I think he put in the work, and I think he earned the Oscar for Marty Supreme. Would have been happy for him to win it for this. The rest of the cast is really good. Abel Ferrara is surprisingly really good, and has a really interesting, cool character. Tyler, the Creator, is good in his supporting role. His rival, the Japanese ping pong player, I don't know if he says a single word. He might say like a couple words here and there. It's a very quiet role, and he does a lot just with like his body language and his pure silent facial acting. Gwyneth Paltrow's good, and I usually don't like her at all. The fucking Shark Tank guy is somehow great. The Safdies are so good at working with like non-actors, and that's how they brought that great performance out of the Shark Tank guy. It's a bit of stunt casting, which they've done in the past in movies like Heaven Knows What, where they got some really great performances out of a lot of non-actors. That's a really special skill that I think the Safdies are notably really good at. And Chalamet's love interest in the movie, Odessa Zion. I think she deserved some awards attention too, to be perfectly honest. I think she really holds her own with Chalamet, which is not an easy feat when he's in this mode, because it's such a complicated character. It's a great like study of desperation and like drive and determination from a guy who's like a shitty person, but he's extremely compelling to follow as a character. This movie hit a level of like mainstream attention that this type of movie isn't really meant for. That's why we get so many people complaining about the movie and saying that like, oh, he's a bad person. Why would I want to root for him? And it's like, okay, you don't have to. Characters don't need to be likable all the time. But that's really just like it's inevitable that you're going to get that kind of thing when a movie like this reaches a much larger, more general audience than a movie like this is really geared towards. It's a byproduct of it becoming like A24's highest budgeted, highest grossing movie. Actually, I think Backrooms might have already passed that, but for a brief window it was. It's just really, really good filmmaking. Marty Supreme is truly excellent. I already want to rewatch it. It's a long movie and it goes by so fast. And like it had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. Great soundtrack too, I want to mention. Really good original score. It's just good stuff. Anyway, that's where Chalamet ranks. No F tiers. I guess you could say Don't Look Up is maybe an F tier for some people. And honestly, it's like fair, whatever. I don't really have any dog in that race. I think he's got a lot more good roles in him to come still. And yeah, you can subscribe here if you like this kind of thing. I have a lot of other tier lists on the channel. You can check out the playlist that's on screen now. And you can also find linked on here my main channel, Brickwall Pictures, where I do scripted content like video essays and little video series like my Deserves More Respect, where I look at underrated movies, or Essential Cinema, where I look at what I consider to be some of the greatest films ever made and kind of sell them to you, pitch you on why you should give them a chance.